Wednesday, October the 7th. Lake level just got under 914. Water temperature is anywhere from 68 to 72. I wish I could tell you the fishing's really good, but it seems like the same old fishing report. It's still really been a grind out there, or at least for me, and I know a lot of other people as well. Good thing is they're biting a lot of different baits. They're just not biting any of them very good. We've caught fish on a variety of baits the last few days. Monday, when the wind blew, we caught quite a few fish on a spinnerbait and some good ones. The good thing right now, even though we're not getting a lot of bites, there are a lot of quality fish being caught. And I know there's a big tournament coming up, the Champion Charger tournament this next week. So a lot of you guys that are out of town, a lot of the bites are coming 20 foot or less. There is a deep bite, a drop shot bite, but I'm having to fish a ton of brush piles and weed through a lot of little fish to catch keeper fish. And even the little fish aren't easy to catch out there on a drop shot. And there's some spoonfish out on the deeper docks. But the most consistent thing for me has been fishing just inside of points, whether it be on the main lake or in the pockets, places that have a channel swing that comes up against them, a little bit of a rock transition where it goes from gravel to chunk. And a lot of different baits have been thrown in there. Like I say, I really can't get enough bites to get it dialed in to say the jig is working better than a wobblehead or vice versa. But we're catching some fish on a 1/2 ounce and 5/8 ounce wobblehead and using a Strike King Menace for a trailer. Anything in the green pumpkin, watermelon seems to work good. Also using the same rig with like a biffle bug. And also on a 5-fish lures, Magnum Shaky Head. The biffle bug or the Menace as well. And catching some on a football jig, depends on how clean the bank is. If there's not too much timber or brush in there, I'm throwing a 1/2 ounce or 5/8 football jig. PBJ, green pumpkin purple, magic craw. I'm using a Strike King Baby Rage craw for a trailer. And also brush piles and rock piles. The conservation has got like 1,500 brush and rock piles, and you can go to the Missouri Department of Conservation and download those waypoints, put them into your unit. A lot of those areas are giving up fish as well too. I have not had a topwater bite the last 3 or 4 mornings. We've been throwing it every once in a while. We'll catch 1 or 2 on it, but it hadn't been very strong. But the spinnerbait bite, Monday when we were out, the wind picked up, and a lot of times in the fall, we'll look for these cedar trees on the secondary points and main lake points in about 15, 20 foot of water where they're just barely sticking out of the water. In the morning, you can try like a jointed redfin or a walking bait like a sexy dog or a Czar spook over the top of them. But once you get a little breeze, it seems like you can burn a spinnerbait. What we'll do is we'll take like a screaming eagle, a war eagle, 1/2 ounce, a mouse colored, and just burn it through the top of that cedar tree. That doesn't work. Slow it down and drop it down a few feet. But it seems like you got to have a couple things. You usually got to have breeze and a little bit of them shore minnows flipping around the cedars. If you don't have any breeze, even though the sun's up, try a walk it like a jointed redfin or the Czar spook over the top of them. But you got to hit a lot of them. That's usually a pretty good fall pattern. I think some of them fish are just now starting to move up out of that deeper water into them trees as they work back into the creeks. Hadn't been up in the river for 4 or 5 days, but there's a lot of bait fish in the river arms and the backs of the pockets, and even on the main lake, like up around Baxter and Indian Point. If you go to the backs of the creeks, some days you'll see a lot of bait. And if I see that, I'm throwing like a 1.5 or 2.5 square bill or slow roll and a spinnerbait around them. I just haven't found a whole lot of fish moving back in there. Them cooler nights seem like they got the bait moving back in there. But now this warming back up again in the afternoons, I'm just not finding a big, migration of fish. It's just a grind. It just seems like it's total junk fishing. We've got 10, 12 rods on the deck. If I go by an area that's got a brush pile and 20 to 25 foot, we'll stop and fish it. If we run up on a bank that looks like a good crankbait bank, it's got some wind on it, we'll stop by and hit it. And the first of the week, we caught some, when the wind picked up, I think it was Monday, we had one over 4.5, another one over 5. One was on a crankbait, one was on a spinnerbait, but what we're throwing was a 5XD, and the red seemed to be working. Red and green, also a Spro rock crawler will work. And on the spinnerbait again, it was that 1/2 ounce Screaming Eagle in either shad pattern or what they call mouse. And you got to cover a lot of water. Like I say, if something looks good, you need to stop and fish it. We're not getting a lot of bites in one area, but normally if you get one bite, you'll get a few in the same area. Another way to get bit, the same places I'm throwing the jig, you can slow down and throw a shaky head, throwing a Strike King. It's a trick worm or a Zoom trick worm will work as well. This is a Strike King one, and the color's called dirt. It's watermelon on one side, green pumpkin on the other. But try throwing it on light line on a shaky head on a 1/4 ounce weight. Or Ned rig will work as well. There's just, like I say, there's so many baits that they'll bite, but the key is getting it in front of one. And it really seems to be a chore to get it in front of one that wants to bite it. But I would definitely keep a top water handy in case you see some, fish pushing bait up to the surface. But for the most part, it's really a grind. Just got to keep your head down, keep changing up, and covering a lot of water. And even on some bluff ends, you might try some bluff ends with the football jig and the shaky head, and then go on down the bluffs a little bit, just past the point. Some of the vertical bluffs have had fish in them. I'm not fishing the straight walls, but if I get in one that's got a little cut, maybe a boat or 2 length